Well, as we saw in John Miller's report earlier, Brazil is the key player in South American farm exports. In fact, Brazil is the #2 exporter of beef, second only to the United States. But Brazil is closing that gap. In fact, beef is the #1 farm commodity in the U.S. in terms of gross farm receipts. So what can Louisiana and U.S. cattle producers do to stave off the attack by Brazil? Well, in part 2 of his Calf to Carcass program, Avery Davidson tells us that Louisiana cattlemen are working hard to keep top quality steak on your table.
These cattle are born, raised, and fed here in the United States, but many of them will end up on plates in foreign countries. Arkansas City, Kansas Angus beef processor Creekstone Farms exports a significant amount of steaks and other beef products to Japan, which is why Louisiana ranchers on the LSU Ag Center's Calf to Carcass tour wanted to see this plant firsthand, because they know their cattle will have to compete on a global scale.
Our export market is, tremendously valuable to the beef cattle industry in the United States.
Dr. Tim Page with the LSU Ag Center organized the Calf to Carcass program and tour so that Louisiana beef cattle ranchers could retain ownership of their cattle all the way to slaughter. That way they can learn whether or not their cattle are producing the kind of meat consumers want around the world. And if not, then this program helps these ranchers identify the problems with feed, healthcare, and genetics to remain competitive.
If we don't continue to improve and keep producing high quality product, we could possibly lose those exports to another competing country, such as Brazil or other countries.
Brazil is a big importer into our country.
Louisiana Cattlemen's Association Executive Director Robert Joyner says beef from Brazil is often used to cover shortages in ground beef in the U.S., but he doesn't see that as the biggest threat to U.S. beef exports.
We've got to get younger producers in the business, and that's, I think, the biggest problem we have. Our cattle growers are in the age of 60s. That's the national average is 60 years old now, and that's a bad problem.
That's one of the reasons why the LSU Ag Center's Calf to Carcass tour teams young ranchers with more experienced cattlemen so that they can pass knowledge from one generation to the next.
And I am so proud that the LSU Ag Center plays a key role in helping producers attain those goals
and remain competitive on a global scale. On the Calf to Carcass tour, I'm Avery Davidson for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
For more information on the Calf to Carcass program, you can visit our website at twilatv.org.